Hello and welcome to another episode of the Mark Moss Show, where we're talking about the decentralized revolution, of course, each and every week, looking at it through the lens of politics, finance, and technology. And that technology is, of course, Bitcoin. That's changing the world. You know, I like to bring to you some education to change the way you think about money, some late breaking news so you can see the play-by-play, and of course, some interesting guests so you don't have to listen to me all the time. And today I am joined by Ben Askren. He is an Olympian, an MMA champion. And yeah, he's also a Bitcoiner. Ben, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I feel like a veteran Bitcoiner now because I've been in since 2017, and that's in the beginning it felt like I was late, which I think everyone thinks they feel like they're late, but now I feel like a veteran.
Yeah, I had the very first interview I did in studio. I had Mike Tyson in here, and I said, "Did you really say everyone has a plan to take a punch in the face?" And he said he did, and so. In regards to that, I mean, you're an MMA athlete, an Olympian. You've been punched in the face a bunch. Is that sort of like going through these bear markets that you've gone through now a couple of times?
Oh, yeah, that's great. Because now, I'm at the point where it is kind of like numb. I actually don't look at the price all that often. I'm not going to sell. It's not going to faze me. You know what? I didn't sell the first time around, though, either. And I got in kind of like when everything was going nuts in 2017. And I watched it rise to the top, and I probably, say 3 or 4x whatever money I put in, and then obviously it crashed, and I watched it crash. And then the second time around, I was like, okay, I think that's going to happen again. And I had a plan to sell in the quarter 4 of 2021, and then rebuy at the bottom. And I just didn't think 69 was going to be the top, so I never sold anything. And then when it started going down, I'm like, well, I guess I'm just going to keep holding. And, now I'm sure next bull market, I'm going to time it right. I'm going to sell a little bit, and then I'm going to rebuy the bottom. Not too much, just a little bit.
I have the same story. Now I'm gonna in full disclaimer, I'm the same. I held after the 2017 bull run and then into 2018. However, I'll admit I did have a little regret. I was like, "Dang, look how much I could have had if I would have sold back in."
Of course.
And now it's like, and then it was like, will it ever come back? Did I miss my one chance, and will it never come back, sort of a thing. And then exactly just like historically, which is not a lot of history, but the market kind of peaks at 18 months past halving, which put it at November of 2021, and it was like, no, this can't be it. It's got to be 120, 150. No way, it's at 65. So Michael Saylor's with his like all your models are broken, so to speak. The institutional adoption, no, this can't be it. And sure enough, November 2021, like right on the money.
Yeah, and so I figured this time, because there's also will the cycle model break, or will it be a longer cycle? There was all those narratives in the last cycle, and now it's like, well, so 18 months past having this time, I'm going to sell some. I'm not going to sell that much. And you know what? If it keeps going up, I'll probably still be happy anyways. And if it goes down, then I'll be prepared to buy some more. So kind of either way, I view it as a win.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, one thing if you go to like the Bitcoin conference, or I spoke at BitBlock Boom a few weeks ago, like nobody there is talking about the price. Like there's just not really a relevant topic of conversation for most people. And so it's sort of like this kind of like wait and see type of a thing. You being an MMA champion, like you've worked hard for, most of your life to achieve a level of success. So I'm sure that's kind of giving you like this long-term perspective that probably helps you today versus like a lot of these like short-term like gamblers that come in. Would you say that might be something that's helpful?
I've obviously, whether it's wrestling or fighting or anything else, being an athlete, you realize I'm going to have to make some sacrifices to have more what I want later, right? It's a kind of mature mindset that sport puts you in is I'm going to sacrifice now because I want to get something later, which is kind of the same thing with this. But I think also the more and more I read about Bitcoin, I told you my goal is to read 50 books this year, and obviously quite a few of them have been Bitcoin books. You just realize what's wrong with the fiat system, and you realize what's wrong with money, and you realize Bitcoin is just a better money than anything else that they've made before. And I can't guarantee you it's going to win, but I think it has the best chance. And so if I just hold on long enough, I'm probably going to be doing pretty well.
Yeah. When you were saying that, I love this quote from Muhammad Ali, and he said, "Suffer now and live the rest of life as a champion." Right. So sort of that embrace the suck today. Right. I think in regards to that, It is certainly better. Now, the best product doesn't always win. And so typically to unseat the incumbent, you have to be way better than just better. And so that's why a better version of Twitter, a better version of whatever, doesn't really gain traction. But when you're 1,000 times better, it does. And I think that's what Bitcoin is, right? It's 1,000 times better. And a lot of people don't realize it, but what's the utility? It's well, if you need to send money to somebody in Afghanistan, there's utility, right? If you live in North Korea, there's utility. In the United States, it's hard for us to see that, but it is 1,000 times better. It can do things that nothing else can do. So from that standpoint, I feel like we just have to be patient.
Yes.
Nothing.
No, I think that's it, and I think especially Americans, they kind of don't see a lot of the use cases, right? I mean, I traveled to Asia a bunch because I fought in one championship, and a big thing over there is the remittance market. That's not really a thing for most Americans. They don't recognize why it's important, and with El Salvador, it's hugely important. And there's a whole bunch of these things are well, we're finally feeling inflation in America, which I'm sure is not going to stop anytime soon. And, but you go to some place like Argentina where the money doesn't hold value, or Turkey, oh, wow, well, that's another use case, right? So there's all these use cases that are out there that I think a lot of Americans don't really recognize yet.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was speaking at this event a few weeks ago, as I said, in Austin, BitBlock Boom, talking to a bunch of people, and I just kind of had this realization that, unfortunately, the saying is, smooth seas never made a skilled sailor, right? Success is a horrible teacher. And so because we don't have that problem with our money here, most times people are just well, what do we need it for? And we almost need this. Yeah. I don't want it. Unfortunately, I think this is where we're going, but we need this adversarial take of where the government, the more the government's squeezed, the more they try to censor, the more Bitcoin shines. And so unfortunately, we need that for Bitcoin to really kind of achieve its potential. I don't want it, but I feel it's coming, and so, everyone's going to learn at some point.
Yeah, and those of us who are able to see it ahead of time are probably going to be the ones who benefit the most, and both from being able to have it and use it when we need it, but also from the price is inevitably going to go up also.
Yeah. How did you first get introduced to it?
It was one of my college wrestling buddies. I was actually at a fight. One of my college wrestling teammates. He lived in Australia for a while. He was a geologist, and he would come to my fights when I was in Asia a bunch. And, I had voted for Ron Paul in 2012. I had read End the Fed. I had understood the issue with fiat currency. I mean, this is a lot of people that get into Bitcoin, right? Because you hear about it, you're like, wait, it can fix this problem, and it can fix this problem, right? And if you don't see any problems, if you're not aware of them, then you're like, well, I already have money. Right. Why do I need a different money? Why do I need that? But when you're you've read End the Fed, or it's you see it, you're like, oh, wait. So it was the first day he told me, I'm like, oh, how do I get some of that? At that point, I think Coinbase had something where you could only buy $4,000 a week, right? And that's so I was buying $4,000 a week for a while. And obviously I had my shitcoiner phase. I bought a bunch of shit that went to zero.
So did I.
So everyone did. And it was funny how hard it was. People talk about how, and it is a little bit hard still and inaccessible, but back then, I think it was something called Ether Delta or something, and you had to, buy Ethereum, and then you had to send Ethereum somewhere else, and then you had to send it to Ether Delta, and then you had to make purchase orders. It was wild how you would get stuff back then.
Yeah. Yeah, same kind of thing. And I was already aware of the problem. I became a gold bug after 2008. I was on Ron Paul's End the Fed campaign as well. Not on it, but on board with it.
Yeah.
And so I was already aware of the problem. I thought gold was a solution. And when I saw this, I was like, ooh, there we go. And to your point, most people just aren't aware of the problem. So, of course, they're not looking for a solution. Speaking of books and Ron Paul and End the Fed, I read those books as well, and I became a gold bug. I've been buying gold for a long time, and I've been working with a company called Universal Coin and Bullion because of their expert coin advisor, Dr. Mike Fulgens, who wrote the consumer alert on gold coins for the Texas Attorney General. So not only can they be trusted, not only are they recommended, they also have great prices, which, of course, we all want. And they have a very special offer for for my listeners. You can get a 1-ounce American Silver Eagle coin with no dealer markup at just $27 each, limit of 3, with free postage, and even get an award-winning gold investment guide for free if you mention my name. Give them a call, Universal Coin and Bullion, to get this $27 Silver Eagle coin deal today. Call 1-800-UCB-GOLD. Again, 1-800-UCB-GOLD, or go online to universalcoin.com/Mark Moss. Surprising, maybe to me and probably most people, being a meathead wrestler, MMA guy, whatever, like you're reading Ron Paul back in 2010, 11, whenever that was, and you were telling me before we started recording that you have a goal this year to actually read 50 books. So you're actually quite a reader.
Yes.
Why 50 books? I mean, what have you read in the past? I mean, have you read 25 or 50 books a year in the past? And what's that goal all about?
Let's see. I think I can move this. Hopefully, I hope I don't mess up the whole podcast. But if you want to look, like my here we go. Oh, you can see my library is over there.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I've always been a reader. Just ever since I was a kid. In the beginning I liked reading about athletes, athlete biographies, that type of stuff, and then you just venture down different rabbit holes. I actually don't even know. If you said, Ben, how'd you get into Ron Paul and start reading his stuff? I would say, I have no idea. I stumbled upon it one time, and I think if you're logical, it makes a lot of sense, right? It resonates with you. And yeah, so went down that rabbit hole, and I voted for Ron Paul 8 or 12 or somewhere in that time period, when, man, he would have been the best president ever. He would have killed it so hard. But obviously, as we're seeing, like with RFK Jr., the government machine, the RNC and the DNC, they don't want to let outsider candidates into the real races. But man, he would have been great. Yeah. I actually got to have dinner with him at the Litecoin convention in 2019. It was the best.
How do you go from being a strong Ron Paul supporter, wishing he could have been president, he would have been the best, to now you throw out RFK? Is he somebody that you could see yourself voting for?
Absolutely. So, I'm pretty open about my politics. I voted for Donald Trump in 2016, 2020. I think for me, that outsider, it just kind of. That's what I'm feeling is we need someone else who's outside the system. And Trump was, people don't like him, but he was absolutely outside the system. Yeah. RFK, he makes so much sense. I mean, I listened to him at Bitcoin Miami, and just his speech was so good. And you could tell he fully understands Bitcoin. And we talked about some of the other issues, but we didn't talk about the freedom component. And that was the one he really focused on. Yep. And he really understands that. And, Vivek is another guy, which – he was not as compelling as RFK to me. He was good. He's actually really good on Twitter. He really makes some good points. But in person, he wasn't quite as good as RFK. So, yes, I could see myself voting for RFK. I don't think they're going to let him be the candidate. Yeah. I just don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I ask only because I've never voted Democrat in my life, but now all of a sudden I'm I could probably vote for RFK too, just because, to your point, he makes sense and he's pro freedom. That's what we want, and
yes,
it sort of highlights this battle of we the people versus the government, right? Where it's
yes.
It's not left or right, man. I just want someone that's gonna be for smaller government. Is that such a bad thing, right? Vivek's great too. I've had him on the show.
Nice.
He's so well spoken, man. That guy is so sharp, man. He's just
really sharp. I'll tell you, this is just almost like we're speaking as friends, and no one's listening to this. Is that I got too much of politician-y vibes when I listened to Vivek at Bitcoin Miami. It felt like, hey, he's got a list of 8 checkpoints he wants to hit, and it's boom, 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 and it kind of lacked the depth that RFK had, And so when you had to compare the two, when you listen to them both, it was just as a Bitcoiner, RFK was so much more compelling to me.
I agree. He does come off too polished, where it's almost
yes.
like slimy salesperson. Not that I'm saying that, but what I'd say is that Vivek does all that on his own, from memory, whereas RFK had someone write a speech for him, that's that's a big difference. So keep that in mind. But yeah, Vivek is his whole thing was I want to challenge everybody. No one shows up with any notes, no teleprompters. Let's just go, just us. That's kind of his deal. But But anyway, it's interesting. I want to ask you about something else. Well, actually, before I do, let's just jump back to the books for a minute. So, 50 books a year. I started this thing. I was watching Breedlove's podcast, and he had this young kid on that talked like 500 miles an hour, and he was talking about like reading and listening at the same time.
Whoa!
And so I've started to download Audible books and buy them, and then I put my headphones in.
The same book.
Yeah, you read and listen at the same time. And I can turn the speed up to like 3x. And then because you're reading and at the same time, like you're getting like total comprehension. And
wait, you can read at 3x speed on Audible?
If you listen and read at the same time.
Wow.
So Audible, you're listening at 3x and then you're reading, and like if you're just listening, it's too fast and you can't really comprehend enough. But if you can read and listen together, dude, it's pretty amazing. And you can take a 10-hour book and turn it into like a movie. It's like a 2.5-hour movie now.
Wow. I've never tried that. I do listen. It was 50 books between listening and reading, and I think it's going to be 20-30 split or somewhere in there. I did 30 books in 2021 maybe, or 2020 at some point back then. And I don't know. It just felt like I kind of had a lot of books on my shelf come January 1, and I'm like, I want to do something I think is going to be kind of challenging. And so here's what I'm going to do. And I love throwing in the earbuds and, working out. Or I have 10 acres, so I get the chainsaw and burn stuff a lot, and that's a lot of fun for me. So, throw the earbuds in, listen to a book, and go chainsaw some stuff.
Where's 10 acres? What state do you live in?
I'm in Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. I'm in California, but we bought some acreage out in Texas, and man,
nice.
This winter with the freezes, we had all these trees that came down. Oh man, it was so much work. That's another topic.
But it's so much fun. I don't know about your life, but I'll tell you about my life. My life is I kind of do a lot of things where it affects other people, right? And so I have a responsibility. And so it's like any decision I make is going to get second guessed, or sometimes I have questions, or I have to explain something. And when you just go outside with your chainsaw and just start chopping stuff up and no one gives a damn, it's so much fun.
Meaning as opposed to being in front of like public scrutiny on everything?
Yeah, public scrutiny, or even like, with your business. It's like, well, I run wrestling academies. And so, you make a decision and it's going to affect a bunch of people. And then obviously some of the people aren't going to like the decision you make, right?
Yeah.
And then you have to explain, well, here is why I made that decision. And, I'm sorry you don't like it, but that's what it's going to be. And, when you go outside with your chainsaw, it's like you just get to go hack some stuff down and burn it, and no one's going to complain.
Yeah. I get it. Sometimes it's just like that manual kind of work that you can just kind of go, kind of get in that zone is somewhat kind of therapeutic, I guess, in a sense.
Absolutely.
What are a couple big, what's a book or two that you would recommend that you've read this year?
Now I gotta get my list out. Let's see. I have read quite a few Bitcoin books this year. Let's see. Books. Right now, I'm really struggling with, and I bought the Road to Serfdom by F.A. Hayek.
That's like a must read.
But it's hard, man. It's a hard read. It's not easy. Just that older form of writing, I feel like, is like really dense, and
that one you can't do at 3x speed for sure. That's like you have to reread the paragraphs a couple times to even catch on what's going on. Chapter 6 specifically, I've gone through that one a couple times because he talks about laws and how you need to have laws that are easy for everyone to understand, and they're written and they're in stone so that everybody can plan their life based off of those laws as opposed to being arbitrarily applied. It was amazing. You were about to tell me some other books that you read this year that you thought were really good.
Yeah. You know what? My favorite one, and I love discussing this. I actually suggested I do a podcast with someone about this, and we never got around to it. But The Sovereign Individual.
Oh, it's the best. Read a couple times.
And you know what? It is so fascinating because it feels as though it will. So number one, he absolutely predicted Bitcoin ahead of time, like 12 years ahead of time. But he predicts so many other things so far ahead of time, and it's like, oh my God, this book is so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I've read it a couple times. I have pages of notes that I took on that book, and that's another book that you can't get through at 3x speed. So some of these books that are like really information dense, you kind of do have to slow down, obviously for sure.
Big time.
Cool. I wanted to ask you about something else, something that I'm personally affected
Wait, can we
by.
talk about a couple more books first?
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay, let's talk about a couple.
Now you got me all excited.
Oh yeah, you got
keep me
the
all
list. Let's do
excited.
it. Let's do it. On
Well,
the sovereign individual though, real quick, maybe we'll do another
Yeah.
show follow up. We can talk about it
Sure.
because I got the whole outline. It'd be fun. It'd be very good for the audience because I think it's a must read book. But yeah, go ahead. Hit up a couple
It's
other
so
ones.
good. Well, and this fits right in your Bitcoin stuff, right? Is Alex Gladstein. I read one of his books, and I listened to him speak at the Bitcoin convention. But Hidden Repression and Check Your Financial Privilege, those were very awakening for me. Like, I understood like the government's bad and they've probably done some shady stuff, but then you read that and you're like, oh my God, it was even worse than what I thought it was.
Yeah, so bad.
So bad. So those two are good. And then you know what other one that I think it just came out, but it's called The Fourth Turning Is Here, which is like a follow-up to The Fourth Turning, which was written in 1997. And I know that probably resonates with a lot of Bitcoiners because they, I just saw Lynn Alden posting hashtag Fourth Turning today.
Yeah. I have Neil Howe, the author of that book, coming on tomorrow for an interview.
Oh, he's awesome. You're lucky.
And I've read the first one, and I'm like halfway through the second one. But dude, it's a 20-hour book. It's a 20-hour Audible,
So long.
right? So it's
Yes.
like, oh man,
Yeah.
I'm not quite through it. I haven't gotten to the part where he kind of forecasts what's coming.
Yeah. So if I had to complain about the second book, was I felt as though the first chunk was kind of like a rehash of a lot of things he went over in the first book, which I guess if someone has not read the first book, they're going to want or need that information, and because it's necessary to understand how he goes through his process. And the other one is it's so hard to remember, every single age group and then what age they're at in their lives and stuff like that. That's another tough one.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that's a good one. Yeah, those are great books.
Absolutely.
Is that what you got?
Yeah, let's see. Well,
I'm sure you read through so many. We could sit here for days. I'm sure talk about it.
Yeah, we could sit there. Those are some fun ones. Yeah, Sovereign Individual. Principles of Economics, another one that, I would say the Bitcoin Standard is one of my favorites.
Oh, yeah,
And,
it's the best.
I went to college for geography because I thought I was going to be a college wrestling coach. And then I ended up fighting and I got distracted from college wrestling coaching and I'm probably not going to go back, but I never studied business. And so I've kind of like been trying to say, learn after the fact. And, just reading Bitcoiners' version of what business is and how the economy works versus and Austrian, a lot of Bitcoin economics is Austrian economics, I think. So, yeah, it's been kind of like fascinating seeing their viewpoint on things versus normal people's viewpoint on things.
There was this book I read this year called The Revolt of the Public, The Crisis of Authority in the New Millennium. Oh, man, highly recommend that one. I had the author on. That was good. Revolt of the Public. That might have been the most intriguing book I read this year. Just finished
Really?
The Infinite Game, Simon Sinek. That one's pretty cool.
Nice.
The Fourth Turning, I'm working on that one right now.
So your co-host sort of said the block size war in the chat here. That was a fun book. Someone just posted about it today, but that was a fun one because I wasn't around for that. Right, I came into Bitcoin too late, so I came in right after that, and that was really fun to read about the history of the block size wars. If
you like the Fourth Turning and the Sovereign Individual, have you read The End of the World is Just the Beginning? Peter Zion.
Ooh, no. Have not.
I put that one.
Oh
on.
no, but that guy wasn't that the knucklehead that was on Rogan saying Bitcoin had no use.
I had him on my show, and he said the same thing. He's a knucklehead about Bitcoin, but doesn't change the fact a lot of his research I think is really good and compelling.
Okay,
so.
Why don't you think someone like that? Why do you think he misses on Bitcoin so much? Because and this is another one, like Elon Musk is probably one of the smartest individuals on planet Earth, but it feels like he's missing on Bitcoin.
I think it's an easy answer. I think it's actually a very easy answer. The reason why is what happens is the Bible says it's easier for the camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to heaven. And that's because the rich man is so proud, right? They know everything. You have to humble yourself. And so the smart people, the Elon Musk and the Peter Zions, they know everything. So I look at it for 5 minutes. I get it, whatever, right? They had never taken the time to actually learn about it. Because as you know, now you've been in since 2017, you're still learning things about it, right?
Yeah,
you're still figuring it out. And so they looked at it for 5 minutes. They think they understand it, and then they're so smart and proud, they just stop. And so Elon Musk, I mean, the guy's insanely smart. He's like a rocket scientist, literally, but
so smart.
he didn't have time to read 5 books on Bitcoin like you have. He probably hasn't read
Yeah.
Ron Paul, whatever, right?
Yes.
Peter Zion, he's sort of like a CIA mouthpiece as well. If you've listened to any of his stuff, he's like the most arrogant guy in the world, right?
He's so arrogant.
Right, and so I think that prevents him, right?
Sure.
That's my opinion, but I don't think it. I know like safety and is like I'll never read anything of his ever again. But I would say the book, the data, it's so full of data that like if you like those 2 books, I'd recommend it.
Interesting. Okay. I'll have to check it out. Yeah, I actually asked at Bitcoin Miami. They did like the whale zone or whatever it was,
Yep.
like the backstage area, and they had some like small like fireside chats. And when Bill Miller, well, there was 2 Bill Millers. When the Bill Millers were up on stage, the question I asked was, and I feel this to be the case, but anyone who, the more classically trained someone is, like someone who was a Harvard MBA, for example, that I've talked to, the more classically trained they are, the more they want to reject Bitcoin as a possibility. I guess it would kind of speak to, what you just said, or that comment is like, they feel like they know it all. They feel like they understand everything. And so this is something new, and they're like, no, it doesn't work in my paradigm.
When I had Peter Zion on, I kind of like led him into this thing where he's like explaining how the world's breaking apart and no one's going to trust anybody, and we're going to have all these different factions, and global trade is going to suffer, and all these things. And I said, so it sort of sounds like what you're saying is we need a decentralized ledger that nobody could control. And he goes, yeah, but nobody wants that. I'm like, you just
What?
went through this whole story of how no one's going to trust each other. So like, why wouldn't they like? So the mind makes no sense in that regard. What he said on Joe Rogan was like an outright like it
bad.
was either a lie or he's just completely so ignorant. It was horrible. But I don't want to spend a whole bunch of time talking about that. It is a good book, even if I don't agree with everything he says.
Okay.
I did because I want to ask you about something else that I'm personally concerned with. You had your Twitter account hacked and you got it back.
Yes.
And I've been locked out of my account for a month.
What?
A month, and I'm like freaking out over here. I'm like a KYC blue check, and I can't get back in. So what happened with your Twitter hack, and how the heck did it happen?
Well, now
and
I
how
feel
did
like
you get back in?
Okay, I feel like an idiot. I felt like an idiot after the fact. So I got one of those messages that said, do you want to change your password or whatever, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Where it said like someone tried logging on. And I'm like, oh damn. And I'm like, okay, I'll change my password, right? And then I had some people like, I have the 2-factor on, and I had like some like attempts on 2-factor, and I'm like, what the hell? And then the one morning I got hacked. So I'm like, hey, I got hacked because I had like the AWA account, and I found this person, and they were able to get me back in, right? And I'm like, damn it, like, was that person I paid him like $120 or something, right? Like, did they just hack me? And then I paid them $120 and they gave it back to me. And then like 4 days later, the same thing happens, like the same process, right? I didn't get hacked, but the same process happens. And it finally clicked to me. One of the wrestlers that I coach, his dad is like into cybersecurity and everything. And I called him. I'm like, dude, why are people hacking me? What's going on here? And he kind of like walked me through some things.
Speaking of books and Ron Paul and In the Fed, I read those books as well, and I became a gold bug. I've been buying gold for a long time, and I've been working with a company called Universal Coin and Bullion because of their expert coin advisor, Dr. Mike Fulgens, who wrote the consumer alert on gold coins for the Texas Attorney General. So not only can they be trusted, not only are they recommended, they also have great prices, which of course we all want. And they have a very special offer for my listeners. You can get a 1-ounce American Silver Eagle coin with no dealer markup at just $27 each, limit of 3, with free postage, and even get an award-winning gold investment guide for free if you mention my name. Give them a call, Universal Coin and Bullion, to get this $27 Silver Eagle coin deal today. Call 1-800-UCB-GOLD. Again, 1-800-UCB-GOLD, or go online to universalcoin.com/Mark Moss.
So this guy says, well, those were probably phishing emails, right? The
Did
email.
you click on the email when it came?
Yes, and reset my password. And he said, well, if they do that, somehow they can skip the 2-factor authentication, So he's like, but then I went back and looked at the email. I was like, oh my God, it looks exactly like the actual Twitter email looks like, when, it says someone tried logging on from, I don't know, it's Copenhagen or some crap, right? Yeah, so I fell for it, but I got it back for $120, and all they did was make a few spam posts, and then I deleted it. I think it hacked by some Russians maybe 5 years ago, and they were making a bunch of outrageous posts, and I'd be like, that is not me, FYI. So yeah, but it sucks. And it seems like
you think they got in because you got the email, you clicked on it,
yes,
and then they
that's
probably
what I think
gained
they got
it. And then I saw you make a post saying, I got my account back. I paid this guy.
Yeah.
Was that your post or was that like a deep fake?
That was my post. Yeah. And then I was like, well, wait, did that guy hack me? Did that guy hack me? And then charge me $120 to get the account back? And then I started messing. I'm like, come on, bro. Jews mess with me. I won't tell nobody. And he's like, no. He's like, I'm only a good guy. I only help people. Blah blah blah.
How does he get it back though?
I don't know. Didn't ask questions. I got it back.
When you
Everything's
got locked
fine.
out, when you got locked out, did they turn the two-factor authentication on? Like, how could you not get back in? You couldn't reset.
No, I think it takes like it when you do something like that. It's like there's a 48-hour period where you can't change the 2FA. So for if I was able to get it back, then they have to wait to change the 2FA.
Okay, because what happened to me was it was like a Saturday over a month ago now. All of a sudden, my inbox just started getting filled with emails.
Oh my
10,
gosh.
20, 50, 100, thousands of emails start coming in. I'm like, what is this? And I'm like, oh man, someone got my email and signed me up on all these. It was like someone got my email and signed me up on like thousands of newsletters and websites. Damn. And I'm like, oh, they must be trying to hide something, obscure something. I Googled it and it looked like there was like an attack. And I thought maybe they got my credit cards. They're trying to like hide, credit card emails coming or something like that. And then later that day, I tried to go into my Twitter and my account was changed.
Oh.
So I was able to reset my password. It still came to my email. I didn't click on, I never got anything and clicked. Later when I cleaned my inbox, I found the password reset emails. But I was able to reset my password, but when they got in, they put on 2FA. So I have my password, I have my email, but now 2FA is on my account and I don't know how to get it reset.
Dang. Well, I can't give you this guy's name. I can't promise you he didn't hack me and they give it back to me. He might have, but I got my Twitter back and it didn't cost that much money. So I guess I'm good.
Yeah, man.
I know, so annoying. Yeah, but the big tech like that, because I'll tell you one for me that I still have been able to be solved. My Instagram and my Facebook got disconnected somehow. My personal fan pages,
Yeah.
And because they have the thing where you can post one place and it'll go to both. I paid 3 different people to try to reconnect them. They like professionals. They couldn't do it. So it's like sometimes these big tech platforms, it's almost like they just get too big and they can't actually like help people. It's so weird. And especially like you said, KYC, blue check, you'd think if anyone that they would help, it would probably be you, but they're just, I don't know, incompetent, too big. I don't know what the right term is.
Yeah, but now I'm pissed because I'm paying monthly and I haven't been able to use my service for a month and I can't log into my account and cancel it. And
so annoying.
I know a bunch of Bitcoiners got hacked as well. Pete Rizzo did. Preston Pish did. I mean, Strike
Preston
got hacked.
did? Is he still hacked?
No, he got his account back. I saw just Vitalik Buterin just had his Twitter account hacked.
Really?
So some people think that it's like maybe insiders at Twitter doing it or something. Maybe going after prominent people. I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
Yeah, whatever it is, it sucks. I covered a story earlier. We were talking earlier about the presidential race. And we obviously talked about RFK and Vivek. But I did a story earlier. The Pentagon did a study, and they showed that we have a massive national security risk because of people with dementia in office having security clearances.
Stop. That's not real, is it?
Yeah, no, it's real for sure.
No.
Yeah. So they said like Mitch McConnell, who had like his second. I don't know. I'm sure you saw that where he
I saw so bad.
He holds the highest level of security of anyone in Congress.
Oh my God!
And he's part of what's called the group of 8, which have the most influential, highest ranking people. And so they put out this report saying that it's a security risk. Like Dianne Feinstein, like she doesn't even know where she's at. Like who knows what secret she's like rambling. Like what's your thoughts on these octogenarians running our country?
Yeah, no, I definitely think. It's even I don't know anything sadder. And I tweeted this morning. Sometimes it's funny because you never know which tweets are going to catch on, which ones don't. And these ones did not. But it's like these people claim to be in public service, but they're just getting wealthy off peddling power is what they're doing, right? They look at Nancy Pelosi's wealth or Elizabeth Warren's wealth, and they're making $200,000 a year, but they're worth many, many, many millions. It's so ridiculous. Hundreds of millions, yes. And Yeah, I mean, Americans don't have any faith in Congress, and the fact that, I mean, this is probably the most highlighted fact is that these people are literally not competent. Like, you wouldn't trust them to go to the store and get you a bunch of items. Like, you wouldn't trust Mitch McConnell to do anything. Like, Mitch McConnell, hey, watch my kids. You ain't gonna trust him.
No.
He might just fall asleep or forget what he's doing, or you don't know. Like, they can't do the most basic of tasks, and yet we want them to govern the world or the United States. It's ridiculous.
What I don't understand when I talked about it earlier is like, I don't care what side of the aisle I mean, I do, but like in regard to this conversation, like I don't really care. I just don't understand how anybody with a rational brain could be okay with Mitch McConnell or Biden or Feinstein. Like, how does anybody vote for that? Or do they? I mean, are they just like, they just don't care? They'd rather just put a name in a seat?
It's got to be they just kind of like feel obligated to check the box, and you know, in certain I don't know, municipalities or areas, it's like so strong Democrat or so strong Republican that they're just going to choose whoever is there, and then obviously these people probably have powerful people behind them because they say, hey, I want this thing to happen, and here's how you're going to make it happen, and then boom, right? Something to that effect. But yes, it's gross. They should have to prove their competence to occupy the offices. I don't want to say an age limit because there are some super old people who take really good care of themselves and who are really sharp. So age limit's not fair, but some type of competency test would be great.
Yeah, I mean, Trump appears to be very sharp. I saw a video of him the other day, like with the golf ball, like threw up the golf ball with his club and like caught it. Like that was pretty good. But I saw, and when I was covering the story earlier, it's like the average age of a Fortune 500 CEO is 57.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like no, they're not hiring these old people, and so it's like at some point you have to kind of retire. I just think like, is it symbolic of where our country is? Like to see a president like Biden in office. Is it almost like, I mean, if they could put anybody they want there, why him? And is it like almost like symbolic like of like the nation just aging and breaking down, so to speak?
Yeah. I think that could definitely be the case. Hey, you want to laugh? Sorry to take us totally off topic. You want to laugh? Go watch Shane Gillis. He just put a comedy special. But one of the funniest parts for me is, and I'll say a little bit, but he's like, yeah, we got a President Biden. You know, when he shuts off, he turns into a Roomba. he starts wandering around the stage. It's like the funniest clip. You got to go check it out.
I'll have to. Is that on? Oh, I think I saw someone talking about that. It's like on Netflix. They're gonna take take it down or something like that.
It's so true.
Yeah, a Roomba. I like that. Yeah, I remember like he holds his hands out like this, and then someone made like the memes of him like taking off with like a jetpack or like riding like a mule or something like that. The jokes sort of write themselves.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Well, hey, that kind of wraps it up for us, man. So good to sit down and talk with you on this stuff. Maybe we'll have another show. We'll talk about the sovereign individual. I think that'd be great.
Absolutely.
Let know people where they can follow you. You got a podcast, right?
Yeah, so I podcast about wrestling. So if you're into wrestling, it's Unfold Wrestling, but I'm sure if you're into wrestling, you probably know about it already. I do some segments with Dan Cormier on his YouTube channel. I tweet a bunch. I'm on Instagram. I don't really like Instagram that much. I post, once in a while on there, and I'll be. Actually, I just committed to go to Pacific Bitcoin, which is in like a month in California. So that should be fun. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'll definitely see you there. I'm going to speak at Bitcoin, at Pack Bitcoin, and then I'm going out to Bitcoin Amsterdam. I'm excited about that as well.
Oh, nice.
Be fun.
That's awesome.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Mark Moss Show, sitting down with Ben Askren, Olympian, MMA champion, and a avid reader and a Bitcoiner. And freshly got his Twitter account back, so go follow him on Twitter. That's what we got. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.